Hello everyone, I'm Justice Graves and I'm currently running to be a member of the Narragansett Regional School Committee here in Templeton, Massachusetts, and today it is going to be another quick review of the various school committee meetings that have been happening lately. This particular video will encompass all of the meetings throughout the month of March, such as the March 1st meeting, the March 3rd meeting, the March 17th meeting, and the March 25th meeting. So we are going to go over that. This is going to be a relatively shorter video considering the fact that most of these meetings, two of these meetings in particular, we do not have any meeting minutes because they went into executive session through reason number 3 under the open meeting law. So that is why we will not be talking about those, and that's why this video will be shorter. Those two meetings that had that reason, for reason number 3, which has to do with collective bargaining and litigation, and collaboration for litigation, were on March 1st and on March 25th. Yeah, March 25th. And so that is why I will talk about the March 3rd meeting, which was rather uneventful, and we'll talk about the March 17th meeting, which again was fairly uneventful. And I'm just going to do a quick recap. However, what I will say at the beginning of this video is that I do plan on doing reactions probably a few hours after, not live reactions, but probably I will post the next day reactions to the next school committee meetings that are happening. The next one I know is on Wednesday the 14th as I am recording this. This is April 11th, so just want to point that out. So that is how that will kind of go. I will, because this is budget season, I will also be watching very closely these select board meetings in the town of Templeton. However, I will not be opining or giving a full explanation as to how I feel those budgets are going, even though this will reflect into how the May 12th annual town meeting, if you don't know, the Templeton town meeting is on May 12th. That will be in person at the Narragansett Auditorium, the Narragansett Middle School Auditorium. So, mark that on your calendars if you didn't already know that that was happening. The warrant should be going out in a few weeks. The warrant should be certified in a few weeks. It is currently still, things are still wrapping down, and I currently just downloaded the current draft warrant that is going to be up for consideration. The reason why I will not be doing reactions to the select board meetings are because I was a recent appointee to the Capital Planning Committee, and some of the items that we discussed and that I have public votes on are currently up for discussion in the annual town meeting. That will again be on May 12th if you haven't already figured that out. So I will not be, due to moral, ethical reasons, and because those votes were on items that were at the time I was subject to open meeting law, I will not be discussing those on this channel, on this campaign channel, or in the campaign. However, I will be at the annual town meeting on May 12th. You should be too, because that is also the day where this certification where the full budget process will finally come to a head when we finally vote on the school budget. So let's just jump right into the March 3rd meeting now. There was talks about the Lead the Way program, and there was a procedural vote in order for the Sr2 funds to be voted on by the towns. Later on, those two, both the select boards of Templeton and Phillipston voted for Sr2 funds to be used. So what I will mention really quickly is what the final allotments were for the year. So did that change from that one? No. So for fiscal year 2022, what is up for vote on the warrant in the town of Templeton is an estimated amount that we need to pay for the school of $7,143,837, and for the town of Phillipston, it is $1,649,304, and that includes the Sr2 funds. That was included into the discussion and the certificate and the vote for the school committee on the March 17th meeting after the initial vote on March 3rd, which didn't include those because the towns had to approve that federal funding because it went to the town municipalities, and then from that granting, they use that money. They're going to use that money, and so that is the current situation. In the Sr2 funds, just a reminder, that is from the second coronavirus relief package that came down from the state. So that is what is currently happening. We have also voted to go into the Keystone Collaborative, so that was good. And on DESE monitoring for our special education programs, along with a few other topics, and I actually have that up. Let me look at what was on it. Did I save that item? I might not have. I didn't save that screenshot, but we had 100% legal compliance, so that is good. And I'm just quickly going to switch over so that we can look at what exactly is Templeton's plan, because currently, as of this, Templeton is already, the Narragansett Regional School District is currently in full swing with regards to the elementary students back in session, and in about 2 weeks, I believe, in a little less than 2 weeks, the high schoolers and the middle schoolers will be back to full session if they so choose. And so obviously in the elementary school there is an issue of staff capacity, whereas in the middle school there is an issue of space capacity. In the high school there's neither of those two issues given the situation with current enrollment. So that is currently going on. I am going to just sort of scroll through these images one at a time and leave them on the screen in case you have not seen this yet from that particular meeting on March 17th. So I will just leave these up for a second at a time and scroll through them, because there isn't anything that probably nobody has heard in the past several weeks. But just to reiterate, when they redid and they went back through with the students coming back in, start times changed to 9 a.m. I heard that might have changed to 8 again, but I don't believe that is what has happened. And as of right now, most teachers, I know a lot of the students are trying to go back in person. So I know that is the current situation. Some kids have new teachers because remember with the hybrid model, different teachers had different sort of student groups that they were in charge of, and so that is the current situation, just given the fact of how this different scheduling and the calendar system work. Also, the calendar, and I will talk about the school calendar in a minute, because there was a vote on the school calendar. Not a vote, but a preview of what that may look like. Remote learning time does not. Alright, so let's just do some clarifiers. Narragansett School District has to bring back all students to full in-person instruction if their families consent to, and if they want to. And as per guidance, any additional students returning have to be placed on a wait list. However, as has already been sort of allocated because of the issues with both staff and space, it looks like that is going to become rapidly more interesting, or has become rapidly more interesting. I wonder how the school year will finish out. Remote learning time, it does count for families that choose to have their children in full remote, but you can't be in hybrid. And remote learning time does not count for districts that stay in full remote. In Massachusetts, some districts have been fully remote all year. If they have, those are the ones that are going to get what are called waivers in order to be exempted from this. But most of the county commissioners in the county commissioner's office, they have decided, the education commissioner for the county has decided that this is the situation that they want us in. They want us to all go back to full-time learning, and I know everyone was very excited. That happened last week. And again, on the 26th, Narragansett Regional School District is going to bring back the middle school and the high school. And any other issues? Just the issues with, I know they had posted a lot about substitutes. Nobody went for it, so that is the current situation. And then DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, that is what DESE stands for, has indicated that they have their full intention for all schools to go back to in-person instruction, and there will be no district-wide remote option at all. So that is the current situation. ESSER 1, so then there was the question about why can't they hire new teachers, because this whole issue with the music, and I didn't expect that, but I'll talk about that in just a second in this review, because a lot of different people had written letters about that. Sr2 funds can be used to hire new teachers. That's already what Sr1 funds were to maintain current staff levels. Sr2 funds are also being used to lower class sizes. And then Unified Arts will definitely be back next year, because hopefully everything will be back to normal next year, completely normal. Oops, that's the thumbnail. So I'm just going to switch back. So apparently something that I did not realize, because it has been so many years, and most of the people that I talked to in town came out. There's a lot of people I talked to, and most of those people were in the music program back when I was in school, and that was, back in 2016. It's 2021 now. That's been 5 years. But even back where my brother was back in high school, my brother only graduated high school in 2020. Back a few years ago, even at Narragansett, there were still some pretty strong band kids coming out of there and going into music education and going into the UMass Amherst band program. I know that much. So it surprised me by how little teachers, when that discussion came up in the last meetings, I didn't really opine on that because I was like very taken aback personally by the fact that the music program didn't have as many members. I knew there were some things going on with the elementary schools in this town. I just didn't realize that it was becoming so low and that this was the lowest we'd ever had staff levels in this particular regard. So that is definitely a concern. But what I want to definitely say about this issue is that if the current situation, and hopefully that the sign of the times, a good sign of the times is that people are going back into the classroom setting fully, at least for the most part. The situation is that within the town, within both Templeton and Phillipston, I know Phillipston's struggling a little bit more than Templeton in this regard. What we're sort of reaching is with regards to all of these different issues with regards to funding and the stress that has gone on over the past few years, we are reaching what I think is a critical mass, what is a critical point in the reflection of what's going to happen in this town and with the infrastructure of this town, because we don't have enough revenue coming in anymore, both at the town level and at the the district-wide level with getting school choice in. That is going to cause, fiscal year 23 is a huge question whether there will be additional relief granted by the state or not, whether or not this is going to change. But the issues that we clearly see with regards to the unified arts, with regards to the music programs, I don't think are going to alleviate in the next year, simply because we just don't have in both towns the local economies to support larger and larger budgets moving forward, even though the cost and the expenditures for a municipality such as Templeton and Phillipston have only gone up, have only raised. We have some great people working behind the scenes. We have some great people on the select board, at least I know in the town of Templeton. We have some great people in the town offices. However, you can have as many great people as you want, penny pinching as much as you want. That won't work, especially in the next few years, if the cost of everything keeps rising in this regard. We've had some pretty interesting budget years. I'm not certain with the way that the projections look, even just at the school committee level, but with what I've seen at the town budgetary level, at the wide budgetary level, how this will sort of start to play out without additional funding from the state and without serious consideration from the state to redo how they do funding allocations. Again, I talked about this in the last video, in the last quick review, but they need to stop just talking about redoing special education allotments and actually do something so that we can get, we don't have to worry so much about that part. Because again, statute, you must fund those students. That's not really and that's not really the ethical dilemma I think the town faces. They want to fund those students. And again, even with the general population of students, we want to fund those students as well, which is why those music classes have to be taken off of the back burner, have to be completely removed off of the table. And those programs are, of course, weakened because of it, because you can't just let students not have basic education. You can't, reading, writing, and arithmetic. You can't just get rid of that. You can't just get rid of history classes. You can't get rid of different classes on, it's becoming an interesting situation with regards to how this is all going to play out. And this isn't the only district that is concerned about the future. I think we all know we're going to get through annual town meeting just fine. There's always hiccups, but I think we'll go through just fine. And I think we'll go through with the budget just fine. I'm just concerned, I think as everybody else, as we continue to watch how these numbers roll in, what that ultimately looks like. So I just want to express that I'm watching that and I'm running into the same sort of thought process. But again, part of this is, again, a local economy issue. if the town could do more, we wouldn't be in such a vicious cycle. But you, again, can't keep going back to the town for one of the interesting ethical issues is one of the interesting overarching issues is, can you keep going back to the town for overrides? Well, of course you can, but at a certain point, when do we start having that conversation that the town needs to change economically to be sustainable, as opposed to where we're in, which is total survival mode? I mean, the school district's basically in survival mode. I don't know who needs to hear that, but that's basically where we're going to get to in the next year or two. If you didn't already consider this survival mode, we're about to hit survival mode. So, again, we'll see what fiscal year 23 looks like when we actually get there in a year from now. But again, I do stress those concerns, and of course, I wanted to just point out that on the academic calendar, again, they're having their 6 normal half-day professional development days are going to be normally labeled on the calendar. They're going to do 3, again, professional development days, full professional development days for the teachers. The assumption is they're going to go all back in person. That is what DESE has said. That is what the assumption is in making the academic calendar. There was a vote to strike from the record certain language, so that way students in AP courses would not be harmed because of needing to take those exams given the situation with the remote learning and the hybrid problem. And then in the high school, they're going to follow half-day configurations for conferences, similar to the way that the middle school works, with 2-day meetings in the spring and the fall, and then 1 evening in the fall and the spring. And there are 2 drafts currently of the academic calendar out in circulation. And then apparently Dean's Beans Organic Coffee Company donated $3,000. That was accepted from the school committee, and the intent was for that to go to food services, so the school committee will try as best as they can to keep that in food services. And that is pretty much it. So hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully my reactions to the other school committee meetings as they move forward, and potentially maybe a select board meeting if I'm feeling ambitious and the topics are of merit, I will go into that. So that is what's going to be happening moving forward, considering we have gotten through all of the February and March school board meetings, and that is it. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what I am doing, if you like what I am going through and looking at everything, if you like my train of thought. And elections are on May 17th, so I'm going to start plugging away at stating that. Show up, vote for who you want, and my name will be on the ballot. So see you there. Again, like, share, and subscribe, and that is all I have for you on this one. It's a pretty short one, pretty dollar one, pretty easy one. Not dollar one, pretty, it's just a pretty laid-back situation. Nothing really crazy. So that is it. I'm going to stop dragging out this ending, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.